Hey guys, LevelCap here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tank Superiority, the new armored kill game mode that is offered on 4 new maps. In this first clip here, I'm playing in a tank destroyer on Death Valley. The tank destroyers are a bit faster, they can move over terrain a little bit quicker, and I'm trying to clear off these hills on the right side. Now, the goal in Tank Superiority is to cap the single flag in the center of the map, and that will basically increase the rate that your opponent's tickets tick down. Now, you also can reduce your opponent's tickets by killing them. A death is a ticket, and there are a lot of tanks on each side. There's approximately 7 to 10, depending on the map, that start off in the spawn point of each round. So the very beginning of rounds can actually be a lot of fun because you have about 10 armored vehicles from either team just clashing right around the flag, or sometimes you have massive flanking maneuvers where 5 tanks take a back road. And this hill is kind of an awkward place to fight, but the enemy tanks were just up in it and they were sniping us as we try to get onto the flag. So in a lot of situations in these tank superiority maps, you will have to get on the outside of the maps, hold the outside of the map so that you can then get to the inside of the map and clear those. Now, as far as the new tank destroyers go, they're kind of interesting. So they can work kind of like APCs, where you can hold about 5 guys in them, including yourself. And instead of having a secondary gunner seat where they have their own swivel gun, there's every passenger seems to have their own guns. You have side guns, front guns, rear guns. So the front gun for the passenger is actually just right in front of the tank, facing forward, and they get a little swivel machine gun. Now, one of the problems that I've already noticed with Armored Kill is that the sensitivity for certain new seats is extremely high. For example, driving in an ATV is very high, and gunning in the tank destroyers in the secondary or the passenger seat guns has very, very high sensitivity, so it can be really hard to zoom in on a target if they're at medium or long range. Most of the tank superiority maps have 1 or 2 tanks in them, just regular tanks, and you'll notice when you switch back and forth between them, say you go out in the field and you get killed in your tank destroyer, and then you spawn back at deployment and you get a regular tank. The regular tanks are a bit slower, but they also settle a little bit more sturdy, so in between shots they don't shake as much. Where the tank destroyers, when you fire a shot, it kind of shakes the tank, pushes it back a little bit more than a regular tank would. And this is actually a pretty big deal because a lot of these tank superiority maps take place at very long range. In fact, I found equipping zoom in instead of infrared smoke became extremely helpful because people weren't able to get that close to other people because tank lines would form, and all of a sudden you get taken out way before you even got within a good shooting range of some of the other players. So you really needed that zoom to hit them from long range, and with the tank destroyers, between shots you jostle around a little bit more, so it can be hard to put a second shot in the exact same spot, so you have to get used to that. Now, although the game mode tends to play out a little bit like Team Deathmatch at its current state with just a flag in the middle to sort of center the action around that flag, teamwork is actually very important. If you're playing with somebody and you have a dedicated repairer, that will make your job so much easier. There was a situation where I was playing on the Bondar Desert map, and these 2 guys got out of a tank, and I was putting round after round after round into them, and I just could not take the tank down or destroy the guys who were repairing it because they were behind it and I was too far away to flank them. You know, they had enough guys protecting them on either side. So the teamwork really saved them in that situation, and they were actually able to sort of push me back. Now, sometimes you lose your tank in the middle of the action and you gotta go on foot, and in this particular clip I'm actually completely out of rockets. I'm playing close to the flag in armored shield, and you know, all I got to take out a tank is a blowtorch, so I go for it and get the kill. Now, for the most part, the only infantry classes worthwhile playing are engineer, obviously for repairing and shooting RPGs into other armor, and then recon also plays a pretty vital role in these maps because you can set up a SOFLAM, and you can also have spawn beacons for people parachuting in on the flags. In fact, there's a few maps where it just made a lot more sense to go on foot to try and capture the flag because the tanks couldn't get close enough. They were just such big, easy targets to be shot from far away. And as soon as they went in, they would get destroyed and they couldn't capture the flag. So sometimes a few infantry trying to sneak in close to the flag were better off capping it, but at the same time snipers would take them out. So the recon plays a good role for taking out other anti-tank infantry, setting up spawn beacons, soap flams, and then of course engineers with their javelin rockets and their RPGs. Now the trade-off between using infrared smoke and zoom is kind of interesting, because if you start using zoom on the tank, you really are forced to hang out in the backfields and you kind of take on the role of a sniper, but you're a tank rather. So you're a tank sniper with your zoom in. You can't get close enough, because as soon as you start getting locked on, you have zero defense if somebody fires a javelin at you. So you really can't go into the front lines. And then if you decide to run infrared smoke, you got to be the guy who's going to try and break through the lines, get up close and personal. Your life expectancy probably goes down. I was having fun playing both, but there were some really fun rounds where I was playing with the zoom in on my tank destroyer and just getting up in these weird little areas and some hills, and really able to decimate people from extremely long range. Now the maps actually play out quite differently. Bondar Desert, which is what I'm playing right here, is very open by the flag, but on the left and right side of the flag they have sort of a sandbagged outpost, which can be a nice place for infantry to hold up and try and overlook the flag and take out tanks. And then to the other side of the flag is a bunch of rocks and stuff where tanks can get into those, but infantry can also get into those. But right around the flag in the center is a huge open desert area, and this map I found it extremely useful to use zoom in. In fact, there was a lot of tanks using zoom to try and hit those targets from extremely far away. Now, just like in team deathmatch, sometimes your teams can kind of get overrun, or it's just a little bit imbalanced. I didn't witness any spawn camping, which is what some people were complaining about when they played at some of the conventions where they were demoing Armored Kill. I didn't see too much of that, but there definitely were some situations where some tanks were pretty close outside of the spawn, and it took a bit of work to try and push out and get back towards that flag. I didn't play very many rounds that felt like really back and forth, one team taking the flag, the other team taking the flag. It seemed like if one team had a few really good players on there, then they could easily hold down that flag, or at least have an organized defense for that flag. And a lot of the fighting ended up happening around the flag rather than right next to the flag, depending on the map layout again. But Bondar Desert, a lot of the fighting was really to the left and right side of the flag. And then just every now and then a few tanks would run in towards the flag, cap it, and then try and get off of the point, because you're extremely vulnerable by the flag. Now, a lot of people have compared the tank superiority mode to King of the Hill, and I have to disagree in that King of the Hill, you spend a lot of your time on the flag, and it's vulnerable, and so you often can't stay up there for too long because you either take too much fire or too much damage, or whatever the scenario is. King of the Hill has a good balance for keeping some players off the flag, or they can't just stay on the flag the whole time. In Tank Superiority, you can cap the flag, get out of the flag area, and then defend it from far away, so you can actually take some pretty good covered spots. So you can see I tried to make it in there by the flag and just immediately got wasted. So in that sense, it can often end up being that the first team to capture the flag has a huge advantage, because if you can get in there, cap it, and then get to a good place to cover it, you really don't have to risk yourselves as much as the team attacking the flag does. If you're attacking the flag and you don't have it, you really have to sacrifice some of your armor. Especially in Bondar Desert, you just look at the tanks going for the flags, and most of them, in fact almost all of them, would just get destroyed or eaten up, or only one would make it out of there. But if you cap the flag, then it was worthwhile. It's a fun game mode. It's definitely not going to take over as the main kind of game mode for Battlefield. It's not very point intensive. It's a bit slower, but if you love tanks and blowing up other tanks, then this is definitely the game mode for you. So go give Tank Superiority a try. It can be fun. It's definitely not the main attraction of Armored Kill, you know, Conquest is, and I've actually been having a little bit of fun with the Team Deathmatch game modes. So stay tuned for videos talking about the Conquest game modes, the AC-130, some of the new vehicles, and I'll see you guys next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.